Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guest hosts or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Well, that was by Meryl Fankhauser, and wonderful music. That was Lila. He's one of our wonderful artists, musicians in our ACE Folklife and ACE Metaphysical Institute. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet. This is TJMRCT Radio, and we are a part of American Communications Online in the United States of America. But tonight we'll be helping ACE Metaphysical Institute, which is sponsored by ACO Association Community and UFO Association Organization with UAP Associates. Now tonight, we're very excited to introduce a friend of ours in social media. He's been a friend of mine several years on LinkedIn and apparently Facebook. And he's been on a couple of shows with me on another station. So we are deciding to give him a platform starting on Saturday nights to help us group all of our groups, because we have so many open source free social media in 2021, and he's willing to help us as a volunteer. He's helped many organizations in the past. He has a large resume if you'd like to look at it on LinkedIn. His name is Dr. Richard T. Knight. He goes by R.T. Knight, Dr. Knight. He's a known psychic and also a metaphysician. He's also a theologian and has at least as much experience as I do. So without a long resume, since you know you can find him on LinkedIn and Facebook, I'm going to ask him to come on board and introduce himself, and we will have a speaker at the last hour also to represent one of our organizations. Dr. R.T. Richard Knight. What do you want me to call you, Sir Knight?
Well, yeah, that would be fitting, but you can just call me Rick. Because you see, I'm a little old need maker. Yes. I'm a little old need maker and an economy-sized leprechaun. So, anyway, let's not get off the track too well, but anyway.
Yeah. Tell people what you'd like them to know. So, first of all, this will go on YouTube and, of course, iHeart, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, all those wonderful places that everybody listens to their own podcast. So keeping that in mind, there's no telling where you're going to wind up internationally. So speaking to the entire world, we're going to have you cast a large, wide net of topics out there and bring in a lot of our organizations and people that are known spirituality as a category are spiritual people. They don't like to say they're about politics or religion, but they like spirituality and metaphysics. And we're going to do spiritual science, and I know you know all about that, so that's why I'm very excited that you're going to be helping us with the ACE Metaphysical Institute. So where would you like to begin with you have a little rundown on your theosophy, your theologians, or metaphysics?
Sure.
And then you can tell them about your security and detail.
About all that, basically. I'll give you a 5-minute rundown. All right. First and foremost, you have to understand that I'm a being from a far, far away galaxy in a far, far away dimension. All right? And I am consciously aware of this simply because when I came into this earth as a born child, born with a veil, as the gypsies say, born with the third sight, okay, I was fully conscious of who I was and where I came from. This gave me a severe advantage because when the doctor slapped me ass, I grabbed his hand and told him, "You do it again and I'll break it." Well, needless to say, infants don't usually speak, but this set the course in my life, basically. So anyway, I have doctorates in theology, religious science, divinity, and metaphysics. My doctorate in theology is represented through the University of Cairo, Coptic Seminarial Studies, created by Anuba Shenouda, may he rest in peace, as he's now passed over to the other side, who also ordained me into the Eastern Coptic Orthodox Church, the Holy See of the United States, as a bishop while he was under house arrest in Egypt. Okay, and that was around 84. Anyway, I have been an ordained minister with Universal Life Church since the age of 18. I received my first doctorate in divinity at the age of 20, my second doctorate, which was the one in theology, which was approximately age 32. And then in turn, I decided that I would create credentials to go along with my profession, since I have been a civil criminal investigator for over 45 years. I've also been a freelance consultant to the federal government. I have also worked both federal and state law enforcement for over 10 years. And I have been a freelance investigator practicing licensee in 26 states. I have also been a bounty hunter. I've also done personal protection as a bodyguard to judges and other superior people, or so they thought they were anyway, and all of this kind of thing. Spiritually aware of who I was and where I was coming from. So that meant that I was born with 14 gifts, all right, or 14 senses as they're called. You have 5 equivalents to your 5 natural gifts, which are sound, taste, sight, hearing, and all that good stuff, and touch. Of course, touch is very important. So anyway, you could classify me as being clairsentient. In other words, I am very aware of the presence of the spirits that are around me in the room, and I've been speaking and seeing them and beholding them emotionally and mentally and spiritually all of my life, which basically speaking, you could say has been well over 60 years. All right? So anyway, because of that process, I've been enamored with the occult and spirituality and metaphysics and all things that are spiritual in their development of the self and in the development of the psyche and in the development of the spirituality of one's awareness. So I have been on the ascension path for thousands of years, okay? I'm a very old soul, and I actually belong to a race called the Ancient Ones, all right? They're very, very tall beings that are gold and shimmering light, and we do not take physical form normally because we're guardians of many, many races throughout creation. But anyway, getting down to it, this has also allowed me to watch metaphysics as a science and religion as a science transfer, transpose, and change languages at least 3 to 4 times during my lifetime. So in other words, we're all talking about the same stuff, only the languages and the names have been changed, basically to hide the not so innocent and actually produce more likely in our consciousness those who are innocent and those who are of a helping nature, who have big hearts and the basic interest of mankind within their heart and sovereignty. And so this is the space that I'm coming from. So understand that I have a universal awareness and consciousness, and therefore I am not limited strictly to the timeline of man. I am most proudly representing mankind in my human form and divine consciousness in my awareness. So that's basically me. So, where shall we start, TJ? Where the devil shall we start? Shall we just throw a coin into our mixing bowl and say, okay, here's where we start? TJ, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Okay. Regarding Ace Metaphysical Institute, I had a chance earlier to pull that up from 2016, but basically it was on Before It's News, and we had a bunch of members, and a lot of them had to do with pyramidology because we were coming out then with the pyramid spiritual groups. And Marta Thomas, which I talked to recently, and she's going to send us some people for tonight's weekly shows about pyramidology. But can you tell me if you know anything about pyramidology or pyramids so we can get that off the table as one of our many topics? Folks, we're casting a wide net to help everybody come out because so many of our friends and events, the ACO event managers that we market and promote events, this radio show was established with that in 2012. But in 2016, we Aleanology, cryptology, ufology, but ufology and Ace Metaphysical Institute, we came out helping Marta Thomas and the Global Pyramid Conference in Chicago in 2016. So I've talked to her and told her we would mention that, and we'll talk about Pyramid Spiritual Society of India, which she is very much involved with in the future. So some of their group speakers will come on. But tonight the platform is to build Ace Metaphysical Institute, ACO Association, UFO Association, and Dr. R.T. Knight with our international groups to help us share this wide topics. And I guess, Dr. Knight, if you could just, anything you know about pyramids and,
All right.
and just anything from there metaphysically, and I will mute.
Okay. Basically, pyramidology comes and stems from a society that is very ancient in the universe, and they have pyramids upon Pleiades, or the Pleiades sisters, which are two planets, one that is purely intellectual and the other one is purely water-based or emotional. I happen to be great friends with both of those societies or both of those civilizations. Anyway, so pyramids were kind of borrowed from them in a manner of speaking, okay? So if you go back timeline-wise about 7,000 years, you're talking roughly of the society or civilization of Atlantis, okay? And Atlantis utilized pyramidology in regards to what you would call healing chambers, okay? And these were chambers that a person would go into that were basically kind of etheric, energetic, and very transparent as far as their actual size, dimension, and actually appearance. In other words, it was like a pyramid that was solidly there, but only etherically would you see it as far as actually a gold outline of the pyramid itself. So these chambers, basically, a person would go into the chamber, and they would sit down in the middle of the chamber, preferably, and basically they would focus upon anything that they needed to focus upon, whether it was a mental illness or a physical illness or an imbalance in their chakra system or an imbalance in their spirit in some way. And, of course, the energy of the pyramid would basically sanctify their presence, and in turn, a direct beam of gold light would come down through the apex of the pyramid and basically heal them in all ways necessary. And these chambers were very effective, and the healing could take place in anywhere from, on our time dimension, anywhere from 3 minutes to half an hour most. Okay, and then the person would emerge, and of course, since they were interacting basically as a person within the civilization of Atlantis, all right, Atlanteans basically possessed 32 gifts, or in other words, 32 senses. So needless to say, they didn't have to eat, they didn't need to sleep, they didn't have to hear anything specifically because they were aware to the extent that their awareness brought to them all the kinds of information that we would normally dispose upon ourselves through other outside sources. This was all internalized, okay, because they were directly in the flow of God, you could say. So anyway, they were telepaths, and they spoke to each other intuitively, and basically their society was focused on the well-being of their society, and yet on the technological side, in a device that was basically a very large diamond-shaped creation that was housed within a kind of an apex device. There was, in other words, a holding joint at the very apex of the diamond and another holding joint at the very base of the diamond. And basically the diamond itself would rotate. And as it rotated in this device, it created a whirl or maelstrom of energy. And then in turn, the person that was operating the device could basically mentally focus, and the device would instantaneously create anything physically that they so desired to have. Now, remember, they don't have to eat, they don't have to sleep, okay? So that lets out a lot of things that we as humans, of course, experience. So anyway, it was very celestial in design. It was very creative in all kinds of different aspects. So in other words, if you wanted a tool to use, for example, whatever your arts or crafts may be, then of course it would create a tool for you. If you were a mentalist, which basically you would help people get over their issues mentally or spiritually to some degree, Then in turn you would create a harmonic device that would hit specific tunes or specific tones that in turn would help them resonate properly in the way that they were meant to be. Now, of course, as many are well aware, the war between the civilization of Lemuria or Mu and that of Atlantis. And the war was basically focused on regaining or taking control of this device of which I just described to you. All right? So anyway, the battle went on for quite some time because it was rather unusual, simply because both of these races were peaceful people. Okay, they had their own institutions, they had their own creativity, and they were basically close to being on the very same spiritual level as each other. So for them to suddenly or undertake a war that was based on greed was very kind of out of character of the two of them. But anyway, unfortunately, what happened was, when they were struggling to obtain the possession of this device, the device was put on or turned on, and basically it immediately intercepted the aggression and the greed that was being vilified by the controllers over these two races or civilizations. And as it did so, it expanded out and actually imploded. And when it imploded, it killed an awful lot of people, and it basically made a hole directly in the center of the island of Atlantis. And this hole basically allowed the island to sink. As a result of that, when Atlantis itself sank, it created a humongous tidal wave that basically washed over the entirety of Lemuria, and therefore Lemuria toppled sideways and also went underwater. Now you're talking anywhere from 7 to as far back as 10,000 years ago. But there were a great many healing chambers as far as the pyramids were concerned. So if you flip forward about 3,000 to 4,000 years or more, all of a sudden you come up with the Egyptians, okay? Now you have to understand that the Egyptian race were very closely related in some aspects to the Atlanteans, okay? There was a great deal of hidden technology and a great deal of hidden mysteries that were never outwardly shared with the public. And of course, all of their god pantheons basically were actually, in actuality, extraterrestrials who were coming down in spaceships or craft, as they were referred to back then, and basically they would not interfere. Rather, they would deny of all of those historians who are sitting about saying that there were hundreds of Egyptians pulling on cords to assemble the pyramids. Sorry, that never happened. Okay, why? Because you had extraterrestrials who were standing in their presence who had the power of levitation. So this power of levitation actually moved these great mammoth stones and compiled them one on top of another, in turn creating each pyramid in turn. And of course, there were hidden chambers within the pyramid. Some call it the God chamber, some call it the King's chamber, etc., etc. And once you went into this King's chamber, you were actually in total alignment with the extraterrestrials who were aiding the civilization. So naturally, this chamber was hidden very, very intuitively and hidden very darkly within the pinnacle peak of these pyramids. Okay, and then of course, besides the King's chamber, you had a number of other chambers that were used by high priests and priestesses that were also indoctrinated into hidden truths and so on and so forth. So that was the mainstay of the pyramid as far as its outward form is concerned. Now, of course, underneath it, there were a large category of vaults and a large category of all kinds of hidden libraries and such chambers that to this day basically have remained hidden and undiscovered, other than those that have been go down about 40 feet to 80 feet under the Sphinx, and you go through all kinds of hallways and chambers, and that's where you find all these hidden vaults of different libraries and so forth, which include the entire history of the earth, etc. So anyway, that's how the pyramids actually came about. Now, the pyramidal symbol itself, of course, is a three-sided dimension, and of course, the apex is always turned upright, which means that it's basically, utilized for creative arts or creative symphonies or the healing arts and the creative syndromes that mankind has at the base of their hearts. Okay? Now, of course, we as a generation represent all kinds of the elements, and the elements, if you notice, are also either upright or turned down in regards to the different elements that you're referring to, and there is always a pyramid involved. So, there is an extensive history of man's use of pyramidology. I would say, roughly speaking, about a 20,000-year lineage of the various pyramids and all their designs. Now, of course, there were also pyramids that could readily be converted into spaceships, and the entire pyramid would convert by going up into the atmosphere and then in turn turning into a vessel that was basically a double pyramid joined together in the center, or what you would call a diamond-shaped vessel, all right? And these were used by various races that would come to Earth and visit and basically steer their children, more or less, because the Earth was started long ago by colonies of various planetoids and so forth. But we won't get into that. Rather, we're focusing on pyramids, okay? So the pyramid in its design is equilateral. Now, the interesting thing, as far as Jewish history is concerned, the Star of David is two interlaced pyramids, one upright and one downward, that have been equilaterally crossed upon each other to create a six-pointed star. So, yes, pyramids have been throughout our history and used both occult-wise, magically, and otherwise, esoterically, in all kinds of forms. So that's the lowdown pretty much on pyramids. And, of course, I welcome any opinions and any further information that any of our outward guests would like to perceive or like to share with us at some future point in time. You are most welcome. And as a general introduction, I would say that we welcome, of course, all of the pantheons that ever mankind has experienced. We also always welcome most sincerely all of our galactic friends and brothers and sisters, many of which are currently surrounding the planet in motherships as a very, very vast array of all kinds of vessels from many different planets. And this is something, again, people should be aware of. I personally have had several encounters when I was age 5, and I was led to believe that it was the Arcturians that did this. And I think there's a difference in races. We're talking two races, Arcturians, and basically Arturians, Arturians. And I believe it was the Arcturians who actually abducted me. And at the age of 5, I was pulled off a swing in the late or start dawn hours of the evening, okay? And I was pulled upon this vessel straight up by a beam of white light. And once I arrived, I saw beings that were gray, I saw beings that were blue in hue, and I saw purple ones, all right? Now, of the three, it was the grays that were actually coming towards me and had me laid out on a steel or at least some kind of metallic bed or what have you. And I wasn't alone. There was probably at least 30 other children around the same age as myself. Gray beings decided to put a tracking device in my nose. And as they did so, they were getting to me to agree with basically what you would call a program or a study, okay? And the whole purpose of the tracking device was so that they could monitor me while I was here on the earth and study how other human beings reacted to me and rejected me for my abilities or my senses and so on and so forth. And so I don't know if it was a blessed gift or it was something that they brought out to me, but at the age of 5, when I was returned to the earth, several hours later, even though it seemed like only several minutes, all right, I became a savant of languages. So I could speak 14 languages, fluently read, write, and speak them at the age of 5. Now, you have to understand that at this wee age, I was in a Catholic boarding school. And so, of course, being able to speak all these languages and to read minds and to do telepathy and to do telekinesis and all of these different gifts that came unto me, because naturally I was the spirit that I was as I was born, without any separation from Godhead or whatever that most humans go through, the erasure of memory. But anyway, as a result of this, they schooled me basically by doing me a grand favor, and that was to put me upstairs in a library with 10,000 books written in 5 or 6 different languages, and some of them were history, some of them were grand stories of adventure, and so on and so forth. So anyway, like I said, the Arcturians had made this contract with me, and the device was supposed to be taken from my nasal passage at the age of 17. Unfortunately, I had gone to a party with friends, and one of these other individuals who I really didn't know, he and I fell upon terse words, and I made the stupid mistake of following him outside. Well, anyone who has any conceivable knowledge, the last thing you ever want to do is allow your opponent the advantage of going outside of the room that you're in and closing a door, because needless to say, as soon as you open the door, they have the drop on you. So he sucker punched me, resulting in a broken nose. Okay? The nose was never healed until I became the age of 35, and I had to pay for the surgery myself. So therefore, they took out, the doctor went in and he found deep embedded in my nasal passage, almost all the way to the brain, a very small disc that had a round ring around it. And of course, he extracted it, and then in turn, it was sent off to a lab, and it was studied, and it was verified that it was of a metal not of the earth, or at least not known upon the earth. And then in turn, he brought it back to the lab, or brought it back to his office and so forth. And I was conversing with him, and I was asking what the results were, and that was the results I just shared with you. And then all of a sudden, the men in black appeared. And the men in black appeared, took this metal sample, and disappeared with it. And the doctor was never contacted further as to where it went. As rather fact, he was told that he would forget all that he knew in regards to having me as a patient and in regards to extracting this object. So, conclusion of my abduction at the age of 5. Now, after that, at the age of 17, I was in the Santa Cruz Mountains, because I am a native from California, okay? And in the Santa Cruz Mountains, I ran across a group that was basically had set up a stronghold, or what you would call a compound, deep within the forest, all right? And they had done so by clearing a large spread of trees, and the trees were basically more or less stacked up in a sense, one upon each other or interlaced with each other to create a boundary around this compound, which was basically grass, more or less. And I met two beings, and I don't remember now if they were Pleiadian or exactly what race they were of, but they did impress upon me that they were extraterrestrials by all means. Fortunately for me, the three of us, those being two, and of course myself, we had a very strong connection intellectually and also intuitively. So they themselves left me in charge of the compound, believing that I could be what you would call a master teacher to all the followers that would in turn gather upon their predisposition, because in fact the ship went and hovered over New York, and the two beings beamed themselves down to a conference center, and they held an open conference with about, 40 journalists in the room, and probably some other amazed individuals that had come to find out that that's where they were going to be at the time they were going to be there. And so anyway, they approached everybody, and they were very calm, and they were very intellectual, and they were very peaceful. And they announced themselves as being from wherever it had been that they'd come from, because I wasn't present at the time. I was only seeing this by what is called remote viewing at the time, okay? So anyway, they were presenting themselves to the room, and they were they were very widely received and welcomed, and so on and so forth. And of course, the inevitable challenge came up, or proved to us that in fact you're from somewhere else. Do something that will prove to us that you're not human. On this invite, basically these two beings walked straight through a 3-foot thick cement wall, okay, into a room on the other side where there were a few other people gathering, having drinks and so forth at a bar there. And of course, they presented themselves, and they turned immediately around and walked right back through the wall. And of course, when they returned to the journalists, they were not harmed in any way, shape, or form. And of course, this was much to their amazement. And they basically said, well, we have presented and we have demonstrated that we are not of this earth. And because of that, we shall return to give you more knowledge from our plane of existence when we so choose. And as soon as they said to so choose, they immediately disappeared, because, of course, they were retracted up to their ship, and the ship in turn came back onto the Santa Cruz Mountains. And by this time, I had listened to all kinds of tapes, because naturally back in this day, this was probably around, I was roughly 17 at the time. So that would have been, 55, 65, 72. So around the early 70s, all right? Back then, of course, things were a whole lot different than they are now. People were very different, and things were more readily accepted, because you had the hippie movement, you had metaphysics, you had the spiritual movement, you had all kinds of different things going on that were designed to improve and increase people's awareness. So anyways, they went on and they said, well, we would really, really love for you to be a teacher. And I said, well, what is the ultimate motive? What is it that you're attempting to accomplish? And they said, well, we would like to set up a colony here on Earth. And I said, well, I don't know that I should be involved in the likes of such. And they said, well, we would really appreciate it if you would. And I said, well, I'm going to have to go off and run my own life. And basically, I'll get back to you, or you can visit me at some future point, and we'll discuss what needs to be going from there forth. And so anyway, they took off in their ship, and I was left at the campground, and I basically reins of the situation over to a couple of other individuals who I thought were upstanding. Well, in my absence of a few months, I learned that these given individuals had basically hypnotized, in some manner, way, shape, or form, all those who were the devotees or devout followers of the ETs that had been there originally. And they basically proceeded to tell these individuals that basically the starship was going to come back, and when it came back, they were going to be given a ride to whatever dimension they wished to be deposited in. And of course, this was completely false, but like I said, it was going on behind my back, and I'm sure the ETs had no knowledge of it either. So as a result, these kind of very base human beings were fleecing these people for everything they could get out of them, and growing rich in their bank account. Well, of course, the word spread, and it didn't take long, and it got to the ears of the FBI, and the FBI raided the compound and arrested the individuals that were involved, and they were immediately jailed and then in turn sentenced to prison. So then from there, I went on down further into the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I happened to see a flyer that was stapled to a telephone pole, and it was telling about an exhibition that was going on at an old theater, and it was happening a couple of weekends away. So I took the flyer and I deposited it in my car, and I went back, and of course I came back a couple of weeks later, and then in turn I went to this presentation. Now the odd thing was, and I say it was very odd, okay, this individual was very, very intellectually inclined, and he was very smart, and he was very intuitive, as he was himself, okay? The very odd thing was that finally when the presentation gets around to being presented, he come to the stage inside the theater that held maybe 1,000 people at best, with seats and a balcony and all that kind of good stuff, one of these old-timey theater type things. And basically he stood there in front of us on the stage, and all of a sudden it was like his whole character changed. And it seemed to me that he was basically being mentally manipulated and utilized as a voice box for a third party who wasn't present in the room. And he went on and on and on and described all kinds of different metaphysical aspects and all kinds of metaphysical truths and all this kind of stuff. And basically he had won over the entire 1,000 people with very little effort whatsoever. But the odd thing was, you couldn't approach him. In other words, it was almost like he had a force field around him when he got off the stage, because the presentation had gone on for maybe a couple of hours. And he got off the stage, and as he was coming forward amongst the people, they could not physically get real close to him. And so finally he got to me, where I was sitting kind of, I'd say about halfway back from the stage, and I had a good view and all that kind of stuff. And as I approached, it was like all of a sudden his awareness picked up that I was standing there. And so I come over and I shook his hand, and I'm saying, I'm trying to understand who it is that's speaking to you. And he said, well, whatever do you mean? And I said, look, there are those of us that have awareness far beyond the normal means and have chosen to use gifts that are not normally available, other than a person having to desire them to the extent that they manipulate them and start beginning to use them. So anyway, I am aware of who you are, and I can see through you and understand that there is a third party somewhere that is manipulating you. And he said, oh, no, that's just a bunch of bunk. And I said, well, it appears to me that your character completely altered, and is still altered to a large degree. And not only that, but your very serene blue eyes suddenly turned black as soon as you were on the stage talking to us. Now, that would imply to me that you're under the possession, control, etc., of an alien being. And he said, no, that's not true. And eventually he went away. I mean, he just went on out and went through the lobby and everything else, and he disappeared. And I never saw any more flyers of that nature or anything else. Now, the third time, okay, was basically an encounter of the third kind. I was driving my car up around the Santa Cruz Mountains, once again, which is a lovely place. It's got kinds of different things, all kinds of huge trees that are very, very, very old. So anyway, I was driving down Highway 17, I think it was, and the road, of course, is very curvy and has even some hairpin turns in it, so you've got to be very careful. Unless you're very familiar with the road, it's not somewhere you would want to travel at great speed. So anyway, I stopped along the side of the road and parked across the road from a kind of like a modern, well, not a modern, but I mean kind of like a general store, okay? And they had hot dogs and hamburgers and various other hot sandwiches, and they also sold cold drinks, and they sold all kinds of various sundry items and all this kind of stuff. So I had acquired me a cheeseburger and a Coke, okay? And I went across the street with me Coke and me cheeseburger back to me car, and I rolled the windows down, and I started the engine because I didn't want to run my battery down, but I wanted to listen to music as I sat there and ate. So I was eating my cheeseburger and drinking me Coke, and I was listening to the radio, which, of course, back then in the 70s, I was, commonly listening to all the tunes of that time period, of course, like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and all these various groups. Anyway, I was just about devouring my last bite of cheeseburger, and I happened to look across the road, I'd say about 3 football fields away, into a dense patch of forest, and my eyes traced up some of the trees there, and lo and behold, above the trees, hovering about 200 feet above them or so, there was this silver craft. And I couldn't tell if it was round or diamond-shaped or exactly what it was because the sunshine was shimmering off it like crazy. And it was like as soon as I became consciously aware that they were sitting there, the car died, the radio went off, and I could not start the car back or anything of that nature. So I'm saying to myself, well, who are you and why are you here? Because like I told you, I'm very intuitive. I have a very strong telepathic ability. And I didn't get any reply at first. And I reached out and I reached out and I reached out. And finally I got this telepathic message telling me that, hello, we are there and we are here and we are only looking in on you. We want to know, how you're doing because you're running around with this broken nose. So I immediately began to say, okay, maybe this is the Arturians again, and this time they're checking on me because they feel a bit guilty since they haven't taken this tracking device out of my nose. So I'm saying, okay, well, all right, you're checking on me, so that means that at least you have my welfare or my best welfare in your heart or mind or what have you. So I'm not going to count you as an enemy, but I do hold you accountable for not taking this device out of my nose. Because obviously, even though our physical medical science may not be prepared to remove such a tracking device from my physical broken nose without preparing the nose and repairing the nose, I'm sure that your science medically would be far more advanced than ours. So I'm sure it wouldn't take you long. And they said, oh, no, we're not going to be doing that because we're finding that you're the most interesting individual with all kinds of encounters, not only of the ET or extraterrestrial design, but also with all kinds of spirits and all kinds of phantoms and all kinds of entities and all kinds of things. And so we've been tracking you and we've been kind of making a history of all these encounters that you've had. And of course, we in turn have been sharing with our brothers from the Pleiades and our brothers from several other galaxies and so on and so forth. And I said, well, isn't that wonderful? And so finally the ship began to hover upwards, okay? And the next thing I knew, it just completely vanished. It went straight up in the air and could no longer be seen. And my awareness said, yeah, they're gone. And it was at that time that my engine would start once again, and my radio was playing, of course. And I'd already finished me cheeseburger, basically speaking, and half me Coke. And I said, oh, this is just weird as the hell. Because, I mean, yes, I'm very open-minded, and I'm very intuitive, and I have been studying the occult basically since birth and been very much aware and in tune to spirituality and the spiritual nature of things. But at the same time, you still have the human aspect in the saying, well, That was a rather strange encounter. And of course, my spirit is saying, yes, indeed it was, but it's over with now, so go ahead and carry on with the rest of your day. So, of course, I pulled out. I've had all kinds of strange and unusual encounters, and basically they have widened my perspective from all kinds of different ways and all kinds of different aspects. And that's just me. So I come forward with you tonight, and I say that, hey, if you're out there and you're listening, those of you who are into ufology, or those of you that are into pyramids or Atlantis or Lemuria or any of these other societies, or you have opinions that you've festered or you have questions that you would like answered, then I suggest that, you're welcome to call in. And by all means, do bend your ear and listen to us, because we'll be here every Saturday night from this point in time forward at these hours from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, thanks to the gratuitous nature of my divine host. Well, actually, she is my producer, okay, since I guess I'm the host to have it grammatically correct. And that is, of course, the lovely T.J. Morris, who basically is coming out of a cave, in a matter of speaking, because she's been there, but she's always been in the background. So now we ask her to come forward in the foreground so that she can reach out to all her contactees and have all myriad associations, organizations, and so forth, who basically, I would not say she's lost contact with, but at the same time, she's been kind of what you'd call nestled, okay? And I mean, we all go through these periods in life where we like to nestle ourselves simply because we've got a lot going on, and there's a lot happening to us personally in our personal lives that oftentimes detract us from that which we do outwardly. So, TJ, might you have another 2 cents you'd like to add to the situation?
I like listening to your stories, and you remind me of so many television shows. What I'm sharing, well, I've shared life in television, but very rarely have I appeared on television. When Will I Be Loved with Stephanie Powers, when she used my, they used my showroom, my corporate showroom in Atlanta, Georgia, and I understand you're from Valdosta, Georgia, so you could appreciate that the southernness in me was, I was just a standby. On the escalator, my husband and I, for hours, they got to use my backdrop as she was playing a person such as myself. I was actually the person with the real life, and she was the actress, and my husband loved Stephanie Powers. That was his perfect woman ideal. Oh, my God. So, and I got my children in back in the day in California when I had a showroom there for my corporation was down in the California markets. We did all kind of alternative to leather, Quercus oak, and clothes and shoes and jewelry, and I actually got to go to Spain then, but that was in California, and I understand you're from California too. So I find it interesting. My television days in California and Georgia, somehow now I'm in the panhandle of Florida, and I've been doing radio, but a girl, Susan, that was on last night, starting her new platform on my radio show under my brand, TJ Mars CT Radio, Susan Johnson, she told me today my numbers from a long time ago in Beaver Dam, Kentucky. So I lived in Kentucky, for those of you that follow channelers, and we had Kentucky very well known for the 70s and people that channeled spirituality. And the most famous friend of mine in Kentucky was Carla Ruckert. She became Carla McCarty, and of the Love and Light community. And, of course, I do the LNL, or Love and Light community, and the Ascension Center. So we're bringing together all of our history with the Ascension Center organization, ACO, with the Alien Contact Organization, and it's funny that I'm beginning all over again, and like Richard said, bringing me back out to all those in social media. I've my background originally was law enforcement, but I was taken as a child, a small child. So my story goes back and you can read it in books on Lulu and Amazon. But UFO, I wrote for UFO Digest 2007, but I began back in the day, and there's a gentleman coming on later, a part of my reality, that studies ufology and has done me on video in Canada, and with prior functioning with Revolution Radio and Thomas Reuben Becker, also known as a Mad Painter, and T.R. Becker. So let's see here. Someone's coming on. It may be early. It may be, let me look. But the fact is, yes, I'm an alien ET contactee, and I'm very proud to have a lot of friends in social media. And Porsche 914. What's area code 914? I don't know. That might be Brian coming on early, which is fine. But we will get started with sharing. I've had a spiritual group, a metaphysical group, and a UFO group as long as I can remember. But it was J. Allen Hynek in '85 on an airplane, and I was supposed to meet his secretary in Denver. And since I met Jan Aldrich, that all this with CUFOS, MUFON, all these organizations I was never allowed to be in because I was real law enforcement, a private investigator, or legal investigator in and out of country. I went to Africa and Spain and Japan and all over. But I just happened to meet Brian through Revolution Radio. I think it was 2018. But it was as a friend of mine, T.R. Becker, that asked me to be involved with Brian. So Brian came on my show with a Mad Painter. I asked him Mad to come on, but he didn't. Let me see who this is. Area code 914. I'm turning your speaker on. Who is this? 914.
Hi, this is Katie. I had called your show in the past, so I just saw you're on and wanted to listen to what you're doing this evening.
Well, thank you. Oh. And your name again is Katie?
Yeah. I called you a few months ago.
Okay.
And
Katie,
what area might you be in, Katie? Yeah. What area might you be calling from?
Oh, New York.
That's what I was thinking. New York.
New York. Okay, Katie. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, Katie. And we will be doing, I do readings on Thursdays, and Richard and I may do some at the end if that's what you're accustomed to. Are you one of the Katies that has called in for a reading prior?
Okay. Well, we'll be doing that. We'll be setting up a platform for Thursdays, and it'll be mini readings, and if you want a more prolonged reading, then of course you're welcome to contact either of us in private.
Okay.
But mini readings, we will address whatever question happens to be on your heart or mind, and then we'll basically bounce it off between the two of us and give you whatever we get, more or less. I used to do the like and such with Andrew Aloha out of Arizona, and we did that for a couple of years, and we used to have quite some success. We had lots of people calling in because everyone was always of the mindset that they needed an answer. Now, of course, being realistic about the whole thing, okay, speaking from the spiritual being that I am, I would tell you, Katie, that you always have all the answers that you ever need within your own being, okay? But it's fun to be social, and I love, talking to new people and meeting new people and getting to know them and all that kind of good stuff, because that's what we're here for. It's what radio is all about. It's reaching out through the airwaves and influencing people in a positive manner, whatever way it may be. So we sincerely do appreciate you at least listening in, and you have a blessed night.
You as well. Thank you so much. Lovely speaking with you both. I'd like to listen to the show.
Well,
sure,
thank you. I hope you learned something. Thank you, Katie, for supporting us.
Thank you.
I hope you'll hit our like on the outside of blogtalkradio.com. If you guys can get on the computers, it's blogtalkradio.com. And my brand since 2012 is TJ Mars ET Radio. And yes, we do have a lot of followers. And I'm going to mute you, Katie, but thank you so much. And don't forget, we have Suzanne Thursdays. And I think that Dr. Knight may pick up Wednesdays with me, but we're going to work out a platform Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I'm putting you on mute. And back to the story. Yes, that, as you can see, I'm known as the Cosmos Ambassador. And that's how I got my Halloween gig. And folks, after being on television and having shows, and then I got to be Michael Jackson's, one of his many psychics, God bless him, passing over, but he got in touch with me when he was passing. He wasn't even at the hospital yet. So that was pretty interesting that people can communicate even if we've met. And my grandmother did the same thing. So I have a lot of stories to tell, too. And some of you have heard them through the years here and there. And I haven't really done what's called a timeline, sitting down year by year. And that's one thing Richard's been doing, and I look forward to maybe getting that done. But not everybody wants to expose everything they've ever done. But Dr. Richard tonight is our platform specialist for tonight on Saturdays. And I don't know what all that's going to entail other than Ace Metaphysics, which is what was the main core, which actually Katie found us. She watches TJMRCT Radio. And Ace Metaphysical Institute with Dr. Knight, because he is a specialist, as you've heard, but he'll also help us in the last hour with ufology. Now, Dr. Knight, as we start going forward in the future in 2021, we hope to raise the consciousness universally. And as you said, we're both Universal Life and listed in Modesto, California. I haven't been with them as long as you have. I've got my company and my Ascension Center, and my name, Teresa J. Thurman Morris, and then Teresa J. Morris out of Kentucky. But they're all me, folks. So what I was saying was Susan had found my Beaver Dam, Kentucky address and my phone numbers on her Apple.
All right.
So I have moved from Kentucky. So
yes, she's now in Gulf Breeze amongst the alien ETs that like to fly by there and drop umbrellas down every night. So anyways.
So have you been here to Gulf Breeze or Pensacola in your lifetime, Dr. Rick?
Yes. Yes, I've been to Pensacola. Matter of fact, one of the most famous seafood restaurants I've ever been to in my life presented me with one of the largest lobsters I've ever seen. It must have weighed a good 7 pounds. And that's very large for a lobster. But anyway, it took up what we would call a platter plate. And boy, I tell you, it must have taken me almost an hour and a half to eat the poor thing. But anyway, then I also had a not so good experience in that I went swimming in the ocean at the end of the sea run, I guess you would call it, because basically the street basically turns into a parking area, and there the ocean is right there in front of you. But I just must have chosen the wrong day, because I went down to about 30 feet, and I unintentionally swam into a bevy of what they call them. I had it in mind a minute ago. But anyway, the ones that sting you, jellyfish,
stingrays?
That's what it is.
Oh, jellyfish.
No, jellyfish, yes. And I come upon a man of war, and he laid his tenders upon me, and my life flashed in front of my eyes. But fortunately, I was easily gotten back to the beach because I'm a very strong swimmer. And, I had learned that, of course, that the most instantaneous way to get rid of the sting is that you go into a bathroom and you use a cup or a container of some kind, and you urinate in the same, and then basically you pour the urine on yourself, and the urine basically detoxifies all the toxin that is emitted onto your physical self through the stings of the man of war and other various jellyfish. So anyway, I did that and it worked. So the experience was kind of not so good, but at the same time it was interesting, because even though I'd swum a million times in the Pacific Ocean, I'd never run into jellyfish. So that was a first-time experience there.
Oh, sorry you ran into it here. I ran into it in Galveston when I lived in Houston, went to school there, and Galveston caught those little spikes. Boy, I remember that to this day. That is some pain. And then we had an Adolf meat tenderizer, and we didn't know about peeing. Maybe Mother did, but later on, I think we started doing that, taking turns. And I think I saw that on Survivor, which, by the way, folks, it's right about 4 minutes till the hour. But I just want to mention, I heard that Survivor, which I like to watch, and Dr. Rick was nice enough to share a few of his TV shows he likes, because I keep up with IMDb and Rotten Apples, and I've thought my company, American Communications Online, not only are we going to help the metaphysical, spiritual, paranormal shows, but other things in reality shows. And he and I both watch reality shows. On the hour here, are there any shows you'd like to mention? I mentioned Survivor, but due to 2021, I don't know if they had time to film any, and I'm really disappointed. But anything for 2021 that you'd like to say that what for entertainment purposes on the hour for spiritual people or reality?
Well, sure. I would recommend Supernatural, although I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock and trade in it, because a lot of it's Hollywood and special effects and so forth. But there's a great deal of storyline there, some of which is actually based in truth, although the truth is rather smattered about because it's Hollywood, of course. But anyway, I like Supernatural. It's quite entertaining. I also like, let's see here. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Let's see. The History Channel is very good. They have lots of documentaries about lots of different subjects, including ancient aliens. Okay. That's a very good series that's ongoing. And it tells the history of the interaction between ETs and mankind. And it's done quite eloquently, and they have a great many guests. Do what?
You said Discover. What were you watching? Is it Discovery Channel? Folks, we've gotten, just so you know, into live streaming. That when I watch on my big TV for pleasure, entertainment, and education, and spiritual shows, all of the above, I can't tell the difference. I've got a lot of YouTubes. I know some people are going to BitChute, but there's all kind of new channels out there, and I still have cable. But a lot of people get these Fire Sticks, and they just pay for internet only nowadays. But Dr. Rick, how do you do it? Do you like I have cable, but do you have internet, and then you can watch Prime or
yes,
Google?
I have internet. I have internet, so I can watch HBO shows, such as a very good one is let's see if I can remember it now. But the storyline is very, very intriguing and very interesting. Oh, doggone it. What's the name of it?
Well, you can bring it next week. You can, anyone, because on the hour we can mention some. There's all kinds of them out there now that would never have even been thought of, say, 20, 30 years ago, because it just wasn't the fad then. Now, of course, people are becoming more and more aware, more and more enlightened, more and more metaphysical in their outlook and their approach and so forth. And as a result, the entertainment industry is finally following the trend that has always been in bookstores for the last 50 years. Well, we know there's ghost
delighted.
Paranormal. What about the Bigfoot shows? Now, I know that when I was in Tibet in one of my past lives, we left some of the big feet behind, or the Yeti, to protect the Tibet, because we left some extraterrestrials on the Tibetan mountains. I don't know, but I think now that we're supposed to be going from the third, fourth, and fifth dimensional level of consciousness, we're supposed to be awakening and raising our consciousness to allow the overlays and the dimensions now, and we can get into that.
Yes, we can. But again,
a lot of people.
Because basically, we have created. Some would call it two timelines. Some would call it navigational futures. Some would call it all kinds of different terms, but what you're basically saying is that, okay, those who have chosen to awaken all the way have now gotten off the fence and decided that they're going to take that reality by the horns and develop themselves to the degree that they actually begin the ascension process, which basically the ascension process will lead you all the way up to the 12th dimension eventually. But as we are beginning here on Earth, and most of Earthlings or general persons, most likely, would start at the 3D matrix, which is where we're at right now, and you would ascend, which would mean that your awareness expands out to the degree that not only do you see 3D, but you also see the fourth dimension overlaid over the 3D. So that makes you very aware and very intuitive and very telepathic. It also improves a lot of other skills, okay? So it expands from the sense of being that basically you're beginning to incorporate more of your true self into your physical, mental, and emotional consciousness as a human being. So basically, you're becoming kind of an interdimensional being. If we progress on down this timeline, all right, there are two timelines now, and they're at a juncture, and they will soon be splitting only a very minute distance apart from each other. But the one timeline will consist of all of those who have become all hung up into the material world and all into the games and the politics and the religion and all that kind of stuff that the material world has created up to now. And those of us who basically are on the ascension path and basically have already transited through, to some degree, the fourth dimension, and even others who have already arrived at the fifth dimension. Because Mother Earth, basically Gaia, okay, the living goddess who is the mother of all Earth and all created beings on the plane of Earth's existence, has said basically that she's tired of this. She's tired of this race of men who are polluting her world and paving over her nature spots and doing away with her forests and polluting her waters and all of this. And she's just saying, well, I'm sorry, but I'm tired of this and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. So now I'm going to raise my vibration and I shall create a world basically similar to the Garden of Eden in regards to those of you who follow the Bible, but basically a paradise recreated so that all of those who reside in the dimension will once again experience the true love and complete evolvement in regards to feeling that love directly from Source, which of course, again, we allow ourselves to become overlaid and basically distracted to a large extent, so we don't give that much attention to our inner selves, which is basically our true selves. And then, of course, again, the metaphysical language has changed courses 3 times during my lifetime, and during this outlay of information, you're actually restating the same facts and the same topics, only the names for the same have drastically changed. For example, all right, there's a large interplay between the word soul and spirit, all right? And I would go as far to say as this is a correction that needs to be distinguished and needs to be made, okay? The soul is nothing more than the personality of your spirit, just as your ego is the personality of your human self, okay? So that clarifies that once and for all. Your soul, when you refer to your soul, you're referring to the personality of your higher self, or basically the personality of your spirit. Your spirit, in essence, is nothing but pure vibrational energy that consists of nothing but pure consciousness. Because why? When you were created as a divine being, okay, directly from the source of all. Now, of course, all of you are going to have different names, different traditions, different so on and so forth, which is fantastic, okay? I acknowledge all of those as a theologian, having studied all the traditions and all the religions of the world, all right? And all have an equal place, and no one is right and no one is wrong. There, that puts us all on the same foothold or the same chessboard, you could say, in a matter of speaking, okay? So your reality, of course, is up to you, and what you do with that reality is also up to you. But you also need to keep in mind that words are very powerful, and thoughts are even more powerful, okay? And when you add words and thoughts and emotional intentions all together, then you come upon the science of magic. So anyway, all this said, these 2 timelines are basically have completely separated about now, and all of those that are on the ascension path will soon be basically disappearing in a manner of speaking, because your vibrational rate will be at such an ascended vibration that those that remain in the 3rd dimension will no longer be able to see you. All right? Now, to give you a relevation point, all right, when we speak of the other side or heaven or whatever you want to call it, okay, where all spirits go, first and foremost, you should understand that no one is ever truly away from us, okay? The crossed over point, or what we'd call the point of heaven or the point of the other side, is only rationally about 4 feet above yourself when you actually are physically standing up. The reason that you cannot see it, hear it, or identify with it is because it vibrates in the 7th dimension. So therefore, its vibrational rate is far outside your normal kin as far as understanding, interacting, and so on and so forth. That is not to say that you cannot do so, because everyone is capable of everything, you see. The only thing that ever holds us back from anything is ourselves. We love to get in our own ways constantly, and get distracted with all kinds of things that have no relevance really to our spirituality. But at the same time, it is interesting, so we play along with it. All right? So there's no longer any time to be sitting on the fence in between the two dimensions. Rather, you must get down off the fence and decide for yourself whether you're going to continue on the timeline, which is the third dimensional or three-dimensional world of the black and white and good and evil and all this kind of stuff, or if in fact you're going to ascend and transit through the fourth dimension, which will assist you in creating your diamond body. Okay, of course, in order to establish your diamond body, you have to go through a great matrix of all kinds of essential alignments and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't necessarily take a whole long time, okay? And it's all a peaceful resonance, all right? So it's nothing you have to be frightened of, or nothing you have to think that you've got to be taken up on a ship to be transported into another dimension. That's not true at all, because in order to have the experience of another dimension, all you have to do is raise your vibration. Now, vibrations, again, are raised very readily and very easily, because you see the highest vibration in all of creation is love. But it's not the love that we consider here on earth. It's an unconditional love that is manifested through the source of all, which is, of course, the divine will and the creators who created all of creation. And I look upon it as Mother and Father God. But, of course, that's my personal interpretation, because it makes good sense to me. Why? Because there are men and there are women. So why wouldn't you want to make a man in the image of God and a woman in the image of Goddess, you see? And again, here we have equilateralness, all right? There is an absolute, complete, supreme equality between the two. And if the truth be known, God himself is rather kind of lazy, okay? In other words, he went through the triumph of making the whole of creation, which he keeps adding to here and there and withdrawing from every now and again. But he basically gave the majority storehouse of his power over to the goddess. Why? Because the goddess is even more creative than he is. She is where we find imagination, intuition, telepathy, the arts, okay, and all of this kind of stuff. And basically, she also is where we find compassion, okay, and kindness and consideration. And this is, if you talk religion, of course, you're talking Mother Mary, the Mother of God, who begot the Son Jesus, who was basically a human being until the age of 33, at which time he became God actualized. So anyway, and I'm not going to go on into religion because, yes, it plays a part in metaphysics simply because there is a mystery side to religion, just like anything else. We have an outer school and an inner school, and the outer school is practiced by those who are the followers, and the inner school are practiced by the priests and so forth who have been initiated into the facets of their tradition. So anyway, just as I am a Coptic bishop, I was also introduced inner side of the Egyptian tradition, okay? Not the outer side, the inner side, all right? And the priests within our lineage, of course, have upheld those traditions for thousands of years. But they won't talk to you about it, of course not, because on the surface, to the regular mind and heart of man, they want to be perceived as good Christians. And indeed they are, even though they do address the apocryphal texts which have been deliberately left out of the Bible. So anyway, before getting off into that tangent, the two timelines again, okay? One is 3D and one is 5D. And you have to make a choice what your immediate future is going to become. Are you going to remain here in 3D, or are you going to transit in your ascension process and vibration and frequency-wise into the fifth dimension? And if you do so, like I said, eventually, who knows? I can't tell you how far in the future we're talking. We may be talking a couple of months. We may be talking a couple of years. We may be talking a couple 100 years. Because in addition to all of this taking place, all right, we are at the end of a Kali Yuga, which the Tantric in the Middle East and so forth, and also India and various aspects, because I recognize Hinduism as a very valuable tradition. I also recognize Tibetan mystery, or rather Tibetan wisdom as a very valid school of interest. And I also recognize the Buddhist philosophers and, all of that such. As well, of course, as the Bhagavad Gita and that story that was the interplay of creation between Siva and Vishnu and all of them peoples. And I mean, I'm not downplaying or saying that anyone, again, is any more larger or less than any of the ones I have spoken of. Rather, they are all individual paths. But the interesting thing is, of the thousands of paths that are created by man, they all lead to the same place. And that's back to the creator of all, because that's where our home is, that's where we came from, and that's to where we all shall return. So if you choose to be in the fifth dimension, then of course your expansion of awareness and your vibration and frequency will go upgrade, okay? And eventually, yes, once you transit past the fifth dimension, you will certainly not be able to be seen or heard any longer by those in 3D. So if you were to clarify this or parallel this, the Bible refers in the book of John, basically the rapture, okay, where basically people will come outside one day and good friends and persons they knew for a long time will no longer be seen, and it's as though they have just suddenly disappeared. Okay, and this is something that's foretold, and more than likely it would transpire, simply because you have millions, if not billions, of people who believe in all of this coming to fruition. So you have to remember, all right, that you yourself as an individual are a co-creator of your world, and even to some extent, the branches of where your world intermixes with the outward universe. And so as a conscious co-creator, you create your world and all that transpires therein. As a conscious co-creator on a mass race level, okay, you participate in the overall consciousness of mankind. And the overall consciousness of mankind is basically the trendiness of where mankind themselves see themselves as evolving, whether it be spiritually, whether it be awareness-wise, whether it be technology-wise, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to determine for yourself what dimension your world is going to resonate in. And then in turn, if you do so, and say, for example, that you chose to go to 5D, well, then you're going to meet with all kinds of like-minded people that are there existing already in 5D. Now, that doesn't mean that you just really, truly, physically disappear. No, it means that your physical self is actually transposed, transported, and vibrationally recreated or created in sonics into the fifth dimension. And basically, you no longer have a use for a three-dimensional body, because that three-dimensional body has been basically raised in its vibration and frequency, so that in turn, through the ascension process, the whole ascension process is nothing more than assuming the responsibility of becoming more and more of yourself, you see. There's no great mystery to it. No, it's just meaning that you latch on to the fact that you want truth. And when you want truth and you become a seeker of the truth, then basically you become more and more aware of who you are individually, such as where you came from, who you were before you arrived here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So, like I said, you have to make a choice, because basically this is the divine will of the creator of all, that basically mankind has gotten to this place 3 times previously at the end of 100,000 years, all right? And in the previous 3 times, basically speaking, mankind has evaporated himself as a race. So now we sit at the 4th and final time of this juncture. And so basically it's divine will saying, okay, are you going to join me in love in the 5th dimension, or are you going to hold back and stay asleep in the 3rd dimension? Because you see, the Creator doesn't mind which way you go, because we each have individual free will, and our free will designates for us where we arrive. Well, I remind you, thoughts, words, intentions, and emotions are very powerful things.
Is there a way to put the key to the general theory of relativity with space-time? Because general relativity, and people understand 3rd to 5th, but they jump over 4th, and that just is hard for people to understand consciousness when a single 4th dimensional space-time diagram is used with Albert Einstein working on special relativity. But the speed of light in a vacuum for observers, with the motion of the light source, how do we explain to them, jumping into string theory 10th through 13th, or we'll say, just for the sake of argument in math, that there's only 10 dimensions. We know we can do 12, 16, whatever, but we'll say for right now, in space-time, we have the mathematical model of, we have depth, width, space, but they say time in physics. So
okay.
I've always had a little confusion with 3 dimensions.
Okay, let's back up a minute, all right? You cannot use 3-dimensional science or math to describe a dimension that is beyond that existence. Simply
So
because
time
the
is
fourth
the fourth
dimension.
dimension.
No. Time is the creation of man. All right? When you leave the third dimensional world, basically you become aware of time in an existence as a circle. All right? It is no longer linear. Why? Because you are both in the past, the now, and in your future. Is irrelevant in regards to a process of measurement. All right? Now, Einstein, of course, was a very, very demonstrative genius when it came to his mentality. All right? However, he was attempting to give people the understanding that all things in creation are relative to each other. Okay? So, yes, there is the existence of time from the perspective of the here and the now, or the now and the then, or the now and the yet to be. But it is not a timeline in perspective as we would consider, well, at such and such an age, I did such and such and such and such and such and such. No, because in the fourth dimension, everything is in the now moment. In other words, you have already experienced your past, learned from your past, and taken that so that you have garnered the mistakes that you made and will no longer recreate them again. All right? And in turn, in addition to that, you are also aware that you are in the present moment having the experience that you yourself have created for you to have. All right? And then in the future moment is the ideas of what you want tomorrow to be. So it's an entirely different perspective than what you would experience in 3D, because 3D just says, okay, well, I'm going to sleep tonight, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, and I'm going to go to my job, and I'm going to go to the store, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this. Well, you see, the higher the dimension you travel upon delineates or lessens the needs that you have become accustomed to in the three-dimensional world. So, with this understanding, the fourth dimension is the transition point from your third dimensional being into your fifth dimensional being. It is not talked about much because it's a process. It is not necessarily given under process through which one has decided to go through by turning inward and raising their vibration and their frequency and turning more towards love, which, of course, now if you want to go religious on it, well, then you could say, all right, I am reaching up towards Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness, of course, is a generalized term, meaning that Christ came here to represent the purity of love of the divine, and therefore his love reached out to every individual, regardless of race, creed, tradition, etc., etc., etc. All right? His message was one of love, and he basically left us with three golden rules, and that is to love yourself and to love all others as you love yourself. To treat yourself as you treat all others and you treat yourself. And to, by all means, love all others as you would love yourself. So that's the three golden rules basically put in the here and now, okay? And so that's the message he came to deliver.
If we talk about brain theory, okay, because I'm struggling with the physics and the shapes and the cubes and the space, but we're talking dimensions, fourth dimension, and the fifth dimension they're saying is space warped by energy throughout fifth dimensional space-time. But if we use gravity, right, where gravity is concentrated, so we'll use that as the third dimension. And then we're talking about overlays, the end of opening strings. You know, they're saying that because we're in space-time and we understand the warp, things are bigger, lighter, closer to the brain where we are on this planet, or anything that's three-dimensional. But when you take the gravitons, okay, the gravity that transmits in the closed strings, they're not confined to either the fifth, which is what you and I discussed.
All right, the gravity, if you relate it to gravity, all right, in the fourth dimension, we only experience half the gravity that we do here on Earth. All right? Gravity really has no true pull, in the essence being that it is molecularly or atomically, anatomically or atomically controlling you in any way, the way that it does here, because there's no need for you to be centrally pulled.
Can we teach people the difference between Can we teach people BRANE, brain theory of multiple dimensions, with the BRANE?
Well, you see, I want people to leave their brains behind, because your brain is old school. All right, you're talking about chemically a functional piece of your anatomy that resides within your skull. All right, when you get into the true heart of metaphysics and you get into the true heart of spirituality, you're talking about mental concepts and the mind. The mind, of course, is non-existent other than the fact that it's an etheric form that is utilized constantly by your personality. Okay? So the mind doesn't have any true existence, but yet at the same time, it is what dominates this reality and the reality that you experience, whether it be the fourth, fifth, or on up the regular dimensional scale. So the gravity
I'm talking about BRANE, the other brain, the one we use in 3D, BRANE for fifth dimensional shapes and how we teach physics. But that fifth dimensional space, when we jump over the gravitons in space, because they're still using gravity space in the BRANE, in the according to string theory. But
okay, well, that's fine. These all have relevance in the third dimension. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand, okay? You cannot take what is relevant mentally, whether it be mathematics or whether it be string theory or whether it be quantum mechanics or whether it be quantum physics or any of this, basically, and apply it, with the exception of all those I just mentioned. There's only one that transcends the third dimension, and that is quantum physics. Because you see, when you go talking about the quantum field, basically you're exposing yourself to a string of pure energy that gives you the creativity of instant manifestation. And so basically, if you surround yourself in the quantum field, which is brought about by being in the here and now, or the now moment, or the 0 point in math, okay? When you reach the 0 point in math, you are neither convoluting forward nor convoluting backward. You're actually stationary. But yet in that stationariness is the vastness of all creation standing before you.
Let's see if Brian's going to come on. He's talking to me on Skype, but what am I doing wrong? Am I not putting him on? I thought he was.
Tell him to dial in. Tell him to dial the number directly, okay? And don't use Skype, because we don't need to be blending Skype in with Blog Talk. I don't think that's going to work too well.
Let's see. He's used to.
Have him just dial the number, just like anyone else would, and then you welcome him as a guest, just like you do me.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me see. Can you call in, please? Because he's late. 347-945-7207 on your cell phone.
Okay, you don't need to be telling the audience. I mean, this is a reiteration, of course, of anyone that wants to join the show, pose a question, pose their opinion, or ask a question or anything else that they would like to do. That is our dial-in number, and we can readily be reached thereby. And this is the method by which is most commonly used on Blog Talk Radio, okay? Now, if we get into Skype, then that would be a whole another dimension, okay? Because, yes, you're talking about transiting from regular radio waves into phonicized, however you would want to mechanically or telecommunications Skype is. Do what?
Yeah, I always have trouble. I have trouble with that jump when we're discussing
just
dimensions.
Have him dial in as anyone else would be welcome to dial in. Oh, as far as the dimensions are concerned, well, you see, the dimensions are very, very simple, okay? You raise your vibration, and as you raise your vibration, you expose on a molecularly atomic level the entirety of your physicality, the entirety of your mentality, the entirety of your emotional self, and you progress forward from these into what I would quantify as the quantum field, all right? The quantum field, like I said, is an expression of creation, and it's the best way that I can quantify it mathematically as the 0 point. In other words, the conjunction of the past, the present, and the future, all conjoining in one split second in the now moment. All of this intellectualism about math and reality and all the rest of it, it's old school because it belongs to 3D, okay? You cannot describe other dimensions using 3D terms because those terms are not related to nor used in another dimension.
Now,
But
some
anyway,
of the people I've
to give you a base of understanding, like I say, the third dimension is where we are now. The fourth dimension is where we are becoming more and more of our true selves. Okay?
Space and time.
It is an ascension. It is an ascension process. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with space or time, because for relativity's sake, everything happens at the right time in the right place at the right moment. Okay? That's where relativity comes in. Otherwise, outside of that, it has no basis.
A lot of the young kids for years in cyberspace have talked about don't go to fourth because that's where all the bad aliens and the archons live. So this has been told
okay.
to a
Look,
lot of the kids.
we are not going to admit any negativity whatsoever in any size, shape, or description on this platform, simply because I annihilate all negativity. All right? Negativity cannot exist in my because negativity is based on fear, and fear only exists in the third dimension. So if you're projecting fear into the fourth dimension, it's just going to be bounced right back to you because it doesn't exist.
Oh, Brian says he's on here. Oh, okay.
Well,
let me introduce you.
Okay, well, then what's he talking about? I mean, he's already on.
No, he's
then,
not.
Of course, introduce the man so he can join us in conversation.
Okay. Thank you, Katie, for hanging in there. She's still with us. Okay, he's been on 46. Hi, Brian. I must have told you the wrong time. How are you?
No, I'm sorry. I made a mistake of the time. Sorry.
That's all right.
This is
no big deal. Time's irrelevant.
That's what we were talking about, space and time in the fourth dimension. Dr. Richard T. Knight, this is Brian Rue of Canada and our Vancouver. He's the assistant director. And Brian, tell people a little bit about the UFO groups, and then we can get into a little metaphysics too, because Dr. Richard Thomas Knight, not Dr. Rick, over there close to you in Oregon, but this is the other Dr. Rick in Georgia.
Okay.
But tell him a little about you and your metaphysics and spirituality and your YouTubes, and then you two can get in a conversation. He's going to try to run our Saturday night for various organizations, Brian, including UFOs. So tell him a little about you and your groups.
Yeah, okay. And I can mention my group we have a Vancouver UFO group. We meet every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We just met with a dozen people today. We do a Zoom video, and we focus on experiencers. Like we have an abductee here, Jeff Selver, who's had close contact with the Greys, and he's writing a book. We've done 20 hours of videos with him. We have a YouTube channel called Vancouver UFO. So we've got about 140 members, and we're interested in the idea of a federation of planets that Earth should join this. Jeff's had a favorable relationship with the Greys, and last Saturday we had a woman, Crystal, in Vancouver Island, who's also been in touch with the Greys, and also gets messages about a federation of planets. Myself, I'm a Buddhist teacher by profession. I taught for 20 years, of course, meditation and Buddhism around the Vancouver area, and I've been making videos since 2011. I've got 2,500 videos on my BitChute channel, whole playlist called UFOs and Aliens. I cover other subjects like New World Order, history, things like that. So I've been a controversial figure. I've had about 6 million hits. I get about 7,000 hits a day on my BitChute channel. But my big focus is whatever affects humanity the most, like the biggest issues, the biggest opportunities, or the biggest dangers for humanity. That's what I focus on. I've been concerned a lot about the globalists, but I think the dark side of the reptilians are working through the globalists, in my view, and then there's the good side, the Federation with the Greys. So it's all very mysterious. We don't know for sure what all the aliens are up to and how many there are, but that's my big interest. Yes, I'm a meditator. I've done some channeling as well. I feel I get messages. I'm sort of a C average channeler, not the best in the world, but I have a real Buddhist worldview of the devas, the higher realms. So I have a Theravada. I was a Buddhist monk in Thailand, so I've got a Theravada Buddhist worldview. Hmm. So what else can I say? I can ask many
That's
questions
a mouthful.
Yeah.
You just gave us a mouthful in a very brief few sentences or a very brief few words. Now, I can identify and sympathize with your Buddhist roots simply because I followed the Vajrayana path or the lightning path in this particular incarnation. And I became enlightened by a lightning strike on the etheric level, and basically it took me from what one could say the conscious awareness from my physical attributes to the conscious level of my divine self. So yes, in old school terms, you could say I became instantaneously enlightened. Now, in addition to that, of course, I have also spent thousands of years upon the path of bodhisattvahood. And basically, I'm happy to announce that I'm closing in, and I'm getting there, which is wonderful. But at the same time, there's not a lot of people that are going to understand what a bodhisattva is. But basically, what a bodhisattva is basically it's like a stage of development along the lines or equivalent to, in some ways, the Buddha himself. In other words, a bodhisattva basically has a heart of compassion and a heart of genuineness that when they appear to others, basically speaking, they are there to give them divine inspiration or to divinely intervene if, in fact, they find themselves in an out-of-the-way place, okay? So I can relate to that. And, of course, I also am a Shaolin monk, okay? Yeah. So that approaches from that aspect. I studied the martial arts for 30 years, and I am a grandmaster of Kung Fu. I have had 12 senseis, and they have taught me 18 different styles. So,
well, I won't mess with you then.
Well, you see, again, the physicality, all right, I went into the physicality first and foremost, of course, for the bodily discipline, okay, because spirit is always in control of the body and not the other way around. As I like to say, we are spirits having a human experience and not humans attempting to find our spiritual experience. Yeah,
I agree with that.
So, anyways, it sounds like you're way out there in lots of different respects. As far as an audience is concerned, I mean, you obviously are reaching a great many people, and I would completely applaud and agree with you that, yes, we need to have this Federation of Planets, which the foremost brotherhood or the foremost central beings that are encouraging this, of course, is the Galactic Federation of Light. Now, in a cosmic scale, of course, there are always going to be those that would love to possess the Earth, just as the Anunnaki did in the far past, and the Anunnaki have been dethroned, and the Cabal, of course, has been dethroned and also being rounded up. So the New World Order is coming to a very, very short order. It's like they're driving through McDonald's and they get into line, and basically as they drive away with their food, they're suddenly inducted into a chamber of cocooning, okay, because they need to be reschooled because they've lost the identity of who they truly are and have gone over into a manifestation of their more grosser materialistic being and have lost touch with the love and the divineness within the center or core of their being. So they kind of have to be cocooned or reschooled, you could say. So it's not really that we're harming them, but at the same time, we're getting them to divorce their lesser nature because their lesser nature has been one of controlling others and manipulating others and stepping on people to get where they desire to be, and this is just no longer going to be tolerated. It's just a frank fact. Again, this revolves around divine will, okay? So if you're saying that the creator of all is looking down on the planet Earth into our galaxy, into our universe, and so forth, and making the divine decree saying that mankind now needs to either ascend or sit on his ass and take another ride on 3D for however long that may be, or go ahead and ascend and develop his 5D awareness, which means he goes to the core essence of his self, develops his true self, and becomes consciously aware of who all he is, or they or she is, of course, because I'm speaking of mankind in a general term. Of course, I'm not specifying any particular gender. I'm just talking to us as a race, all right? Now, our overall consciousness, of course, I would say that probably 80% is ready for the conclusion of the matrix reality or that which is generated in 3D. Okay? You also, so with an 80% majority, of course, then in turn we are going to recreate and join ourselves in a fifth-dimensional reality. And as soon as we do, all of these spaceships and so forth that are hovering around us will become we will be very aware of their existence, because we will be able to see and hear them. Okay? So all this good stuff. And this is all happening at the moment. Now, of course, you see, we as human beings have this frightful habit. And I say it's a frightful one because it's done us a lot of damage in the present and the past, and especially the past. If you look at us historically, we have all demanded that there was always going to be a war, okay? Whether it be for this tradition, that race over this race, or who controlled what continent, or so on and so on and so forth. And it's all been ridiculous because it was a lot of loss for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Simply because people became outward involved instead of turning inward. And I'm sure you can relate to that as a Buddhist. Because
I agree, people have to have more of a spiritual life.
All answers are found within the inward self, whereas the outward self is only a reflection of your thought.
Yes.
Let me flip this around. I've invited Brian on here the last hour, but we're a little late. But as the host tonight, Richard, I'd like you to learn what he's been doing that I don't know about.
Sure. Well, I keep absolutely no track and no concept of time, except when it's a variable as to whether or not I need to go to sleep, which recently it's only 3 hours a night. And then, of course, the progression of the hours when the sun comes up and so on and so forth, and the day goes on, and you go through your regular routine of whatever it happens to be. So by all means, Brian, do elucidate. What's currently on your table of agenda.
Yeah, sure. Well, I agree with something you were saying earlier, that in the future all these UFOs or flying saucers will become visible. My view since around 2009 is there's flying saucers buzzing around day and night, like everywhere around the world, and they have a cloaking device. We don't see them. There's an everyday thing, and that people are getting abducted, commonly pulled out of their houses, abducted for a few hours, and put back. And this is part of a long-term kind of genetic upgrade. Like the Federation of Planets, at least my understanding from what I've researched, and also people like Jeff and Crystal have like first-hand experiences that they'd actually approached the Eisenhower government in the 50s, and perhaps even the German government in the 1930s and 40s. And Eisenhower and others basically rejected them, said, well, no, we don't want to give up our nuclear weapons and become more, they're proposing, you should become more spiritual. We have all these gifts for humanity. They were basically rejected. So what the Federation of Planets decided to do is, we're going to do it our way. So the abduction program is a program to slowly and intuitively change humanity. They want to upgrade us genetically, physically, spiritually, so that the end result is we'll enter into the Federation of Planets. And one of the hallmarks is telepathy. All these aliens communicate with others with telepathy. And so the end result is humanity 2.0, this more evolved humanity. We'll have telepathy perhaps be like a hybrid, a physically altered, improved humanity, and that the world will be more spiritual. The very center of our lives, they feel, should be more spiritual. So in many of these abductees, like Jeff, find that the greats themselves are quite spiritually oriented beings, and he actually said they're kind of like Buddhists, and he kind of describes how this kind of threatens Christians. Like on our Vancouver UFO meetup, we've had some Christian guests. We had several, and they like to think that the whole abduction thing is demonic. What you need to do is pray to Jesus Christ to save you, and if you're getting abducted, pray to Jesus to prevent this, and it's all demonic. So they're actually threatened by this new world, this federation, whereas Buddhists are not. Like the Vajrayana is fine as well. We're not threatened by this because I think in Buddhist cosmology can accept other beings in the universe, and this changed reality seems to be in harmony with Buddhist thought. So I think within the media, there's a bad rap for grays. I think the reptilians have been, some of them are quite bad, but there tends to be this bad rap for Grays. This might be like fake news. I think the Grays, at least the Grays that Jeff's and others are associated with, do have a good intention for the world. But I think this is the single biggest issue facing mankind, that since World War II, the Federation planets have decided that, well, human beings have the atomic bomb, they're more evolved, they have to be brought into our Federation. There has to be some proper planetary management. These human beings they're kind of disappointing us, they're a bit violent, they're a bit out of control, they need to be properly managed. So I think they've made the decision that they're the humanity's agents of change. Just how Jeff Silver's been taught by he works one particular Gray he calls the Elder, like a grandmotherly female figure he's met like over 20 times. So they're basically saying the Federation has made this decision to incorporate Earth into it. And it's a very slow and intuitive process. They've probably been at it for over a century. So I think the point is we don't really have any choice in the matter. This is going to be done. This decision has been made. And the end result should be good. Well, it could be difficult. Could be cataclysms getting there. Go ahead. Want to say something?
Well, I was just going to interject that first and foremost, the prime directive on any planetary interaction, of course, is not to interfere with that which the natural planetoids are creating or going on about their business. Unless, of course, in some way their business has become a threat to their immediate galaxy, which would, of course, have repercussions on their immediate universe, and it would be kind of like a domino effect. So from what I understand, all of the nuclear warheads on both sides, or all sides around the world, have basically been disintegrated, okay? So, yes, if we were to push the button right now, basically we would have nothing but a bunch of duds land wherever they happen to land. So there would be no radioactive wave, there would be no radioactive exposure, and the Earth would continue on the way it is. Now, whether this is factual or not, who's to say? I will go as far as to say that I have been on one of the motherships of the Galactic Federation, and I have I have had conversations with the starship captains, and they have made me very much aware that, yes, they are here to watch over us and to prevent, if necessary, or to even go as far as to intervene if our war decrees were to rise to the level that we would actually decide that we're going to disintegrate each other. That will not be allowed to happen. Okay, their technology is far surpassing ours, and it will not be allowed to happen. So you could say that's kind of a divine intervention that's coming down through our galactic star brothers and sisters. Because
divine intervention, I think of it that way.
Yeah, the will of and I mean, as far as demons, that's very old school Catholicism. And it really has, mankind has this penchant that any time at all that they don't understand or they cannot understand something, it's automatically labeled as evil. And the very way that we should react to it is to kill it. Well, unfortunately, this is a very base carnal knowledge, and it's a very base carnal reaction. And those of us, of course, who like myself come in from the 16th dimension, all right, we don't tolerate the likes of such. And personally, all right, on a celestial level, I am what is called a celestial healer. I am one who comes into universes, all right, and heals the entirety of a universe. Now, you say, I'm sure the question must be arising in your mind, well, why would a celestial healer decide to compose themselves into a physical being here on Earth when this is only
Hey, why would a celestial healer compose himself as a physical being here on Earth? I was just wondering that.
Okay, all right. A little bit of sarcasm in the actors always enjoy, by all means. But anyway, the point being is this, all right? I have come here to help mankind ascend on their own terms, in their own fashions, in their own time. So therefore, by my mere presence alone, the energetic space in which I create, which covers miles, is others of like mind, who do join me in turn on the ascension process or in the ascension space, okay? And, it's very simple, actually, because, if I get together with a couple of other like-minded people, I can change the entire planet at will. Okay? But again, you see, I am directed to the prime directive, all right? The prime directive is not to overall interfere, all right? So, yes, if there are, in fact, these abductions occurring, I would stipulate that it has to be under the condition and agreement of that given individual's free will before any such
it
thing
seems
can
it
occur.
is. They describe this how they do actually ask for permission, and Jeff discovered that he actually did get permission even in a previous life. He gave permission, so they seem to be respectful that way. They do ask people. The Greys ask people, "Will you do this? Would you like to agree this?" And they're free to say no.
Yep.
And we
good.
discussed that, Richard, that he knows of some people channeling are in contact with Greys. So with us casting this huge net universally, Brian, what you bring to the table is Vancouver, Canada, for our North American continent. But you also bring that you have been in discussion with people in your alien contactee group. Now, what I'd like to do tonight is get very clear to people that we're all leaders in our chosen groups in Facebook, or we'll just say the overall social networks. And all of us may know someone that either interacts with another human that says they're involved in alienology, cosmology, phenomenology, cryptozoology, and ufology, right? But we're not trying to make anybody right or wrong with who they are. Mm-hmm. What I would like to do is make sure that each of us as journalists, writers, authors, videographers, and you have thousands, if not millions of people over the years listening to you, Brian, and you've been working in Canada for so long, that globally we can recognize each other, that we physically are showing up. And one thing Dr. Rick pointed out is I haven't been showing up. My daughter died, Brian, March, but she showed up January 19th, 2020. So she did show up and died, and so she's been gone. Wait, was it 19?
Sorry.
Oh, my gosh. I've been out of physical humanoid reality for so long. It knocks you sideways, folks. I guess she's been gone a year and a half now. Has it been that long? Oh, my God. So here on Human Form is what I need. I need support, folks, of all my leaders coming forth on the planet, because this is just a little tiny blue marble where I come from. Universally speaking, I'm working with all the universes, but technically I've agreed to the Uni Multi Meta Xeno Omni, so that's the 5 universes, and then we have the Alpha and Omega as the 7. So we've been working with those in digital time and space, in AI, with entertainment and gaming entertainment. So, Brian, what I'd like to know, if you would like to know Dr. Richard T. Knight in social media, and you guys could become friends. Yeah. So Dr. Knight is stepping up to run several organizations, hopefully universally, but in the United States of America and you run Canada, and that would be a wonderful thing because you've been doing it for so long. Dr. Richard, you think that's possible to get these leaders of their various groups?
Of course it is. As we say in the magical system, put out a call, because as soon as you dial the phone, all answer and all come coming.
Well,
so basically, you're putting out a call. You see, you just announced to the world, basically speaking, on all the various platforms in which we're projecting our thought waves and so forth, that hello, any and all of those who are of a universal consciousness and a universal mind and are leaders in their districts or leaders in their countries or leaders in their continents, for that matter, you are to come forth now and join us here in the round table. And yes, we're going to put to use Arthur's round table, because it was a round table of knights, and each were nobly recognized as having specific skills, specific expertise, and therefore they were recognized as equals. Okay? And of course, they were sovereign to a king. Well, the king that we choose to have in this particular aspect is going to be the creator of all. And therefore, because it's all recognized by all of us, regardless of what tradition we may follow as a human being, or what, maybe the aspect that we are aware of consciously, whether it be galactic or whether it be universal or whether it be the entirety of creation, whatever it might be, is of no relevance in regards to stepping stone relation. Rather, we are all equals, for none of us are above, nor none of us are below any other. All the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom that we have garnered into the table, you see? And this table is enriched, and the mind compodium that is created by all such leadership to step forward now and join the table creates endless possibility. So yes, Brian, I definitely offer you friendship. I definitely offer you a seat at the table if you would be so kind, because yes,
sure,
you bring forward with you thousands of possibilities, maybe even millions of possibilities. Anyway, and I shall do the same, and TJ shall do the same, and whoever else is out there that would like to join us that happens to be listening now, or even if they're not listening, if they are irked or spiked or suddenly get a premonition or suddenly have an aha moment that there's something else they need to be doing, may they hopefully find us. And I'm sure that's
someone just, we've only got 7 minutes. 917, did you want to add your name and meet Richard and Brian? We're going to try to do this at least once a month. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Who?
Oh, hi. That's Anna. Anna. Okay, she's just listening. Thank you, Anna. She's in New York. I know who that is.
Okay,
she's a big supporter of our group. Thank you, Anna. We'll be coming back and doing readings, too. Brian, do you do readings? I know Richard does. And
no, what do you mean by readings?
Psychic readings or tarot or spiritual intuitiveness. But you do
no.
coaching and counseling, right?
Well, I guess I just focus on my show on BitChute and my UFO meetup. So I put all my kind of psychic energies into that. Yeah, I don't do so much one-on-one work. I used to, like, where I taught for 20 years. Huh? Well, Revolution Radio, yeah, I do that every Tuesday night from 6 to 8. I've been on there for 4 years, on 3 years of Revolution Radio.
Okay, so you're still doing radio. And do you do some UFO shows?
Oh yeah, but I talk about that a lot. So it's quite a dominant theme on my Revolution Radio show. A lot of people on Revolution Radio talk about UFOs as well on other shows.
Okay. Well, I tried to talk to Mad Painter and T.R. Becker. He sent me his book. Oh, no, I bought his book on Ether, so I'd like to mention that because Thomas R. Becker is still managing director of Revolution Radio, of which Brian.
Yeah, he's helped me a lot. Like he's helped me a lot with the show and just technical stuff, getting onto the show and with my show there. So he's a friend of mine. I really appreciate Thomas.
Okay, good. Well, we'd like to have you back sometime if you'd be interested.
Sure.
I don't know yet how to do Skype. I guess I call in on my Skype number and then just include you in a group called My Own Radio Show, I think. Well,
you and I are connected on Skype. But I guess you mean you don't know how to do it as part of a live radio show, you mean?
Exactly. I guess it's the same. You just call into the Skype number radio show first, and then whoever's in your group, you bring them on. That's the same thing. So
the sound quality is better on Skype than the phone, right? Like this is a phone. I'm on a phone, so the sound quality is not quite as good as Skype on the computer.
True, maybe.
I don't know.
I've done Skype over the phone as well, and the sound quality is pretty close to the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see tonight. I'll listen to this. Well, Brian, I'd like to have you back. I know I got you a little late the last 30 minutes or so. And all you ladies out there that are part of our metaphysical group, I'm sure they're feeling they're just supporting us tonight, including Anna of New York. And Katie, I guess, was 914 New York too, Dr. Rick?
Yes.
Do you remember? It was.
Yep.
So we had two ladies from New York, Anna, and she likes Anna, not Anna. I call her Southern Anna. She says, no, it's Anna. So hi, Anna. And I'm sure that Anna would like to come back on a psychic reading night. But let me turn them on. Brian, this is Anna.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello, Anna.
Oh no, this is Katie.
Hi,
Hello,
Katie.
Katie. I'm sorry.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hi, T.S.
Hi there.
708's here too. I'm just going to real quick let everybody say hi. 708, do you want to say hi? So 708, who are you?
708, say hi. No, I guess she's too shy.
There's no reason to be shy.
Okay, well, they were on. All right, well, Brian, Anna, and Katie come naturally, but I guess Wednesdays and Thursdays, ladies, we're going to do Wednesdays for ladies, and Suzanne's going to come back on some Thursdays. But Dr. Rick is going to work with us on Wednesdays and Fridays. Is that – oh, wait. Dr. Rick, what is your chosen night to come back and do an hour or so, or maybe two, if you want to help these ladies on mini readings? What night would you be available?
Probably a couple hours, but I would have to say that maybe Wednesday would be good one.
All right, so, ladies, so we'll have a Wednesday ladies mini readings. We'll begin this coming Wednesday, so be sure and call back in, Anna and Katie, to keep us on our toes. Okay, and that's now. Which number did you call in on, Brian, so I don't turn you off?
Yeah, I called in on the 347 number.
I don't even see that.
945-7207.
Well, yeah, but I don't know what number you are. Well, ladies, like I
can give
said,
you my phone number. I can give you that if you want.
You probably
was
want to
it a
do that in
917?
private rather than on the air.
That's okay. It's a 604
I don't mind.
number.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Is it 604
Do you want my phone number? Yes.
Oh, that's
the 604 is my number.
Okay.
Is that your normal number if I had to get in contact with you or not?
Yeah, that's my landline at home.
Cool.
Okay. Well, Brian, since you're meeting with people, I want to hope Richard has time to help me administratively. That's what I'm hoping for, but I don't want to put too much on his plate. But we can have
I
meet-up groups
multitask
too.
most wonderfully.
All right. Well, do you want to write Brian's number down? Or you want me
let
to?
me have Brian.
All right.
All right. You can reach out to me on Skype. I'm friends on Skype with TJ, of course, and also you can reach out to me on Gmail. Okay, which is basically just RT Knight, my first initials, Richard Thomas, last name Knight, KNIGHT, 35 @gmail.com.
35@gmail.com.
Right, yeah, we can reach each other on Hangouts there.
RT Knight, okay.
35.
Is that a cool name?
Make sure you put the 35 up there.
Okay. Yeah, RT Knight 35 @gmail.com.
RT Knight 35 @gmail.com.
Okay. And Knight is KNIGHT.
This is correct. I still
Got
ride
it.
the horse every once in a while.
Sure.
Now, Brian, on the metaphysical side, do you have any? You're concentrating on your UFO business because that's what you're known for. But at the same time, do you have a spiritual or metaphysical group or esoteric interest in the paranormal, or any group you meet with?
Well, yeah, I do.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, we didn't get the chance. We'll have to have you back and do an interview. I don't know what all you're about, Brian, so we need to have you come back.
Well, I'm a mysterious figure. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I will say I took an oath of secrecy in 2009. Years later, I actually signed a non-disclosure agreement.
Oh goodness. Okay then. So basically, you would have to say that's part of yourself is in the shadow circle, and so if you don't want to expose much light there, but at the same time, you can willingly share knowledge from your own perspective that you've garnered from that particular circle. as they say.
Well, there's lots I can
so
talk about. There's lots I can
All
talk
right.
about. On my show, I'm quite open.
there-
I got hundreds of hours of videos on lots of stuff.
Okay. Well, the main thing is we start growing our leadership in various countries, folks. So if you're in a country, we would like to have you in our ACO International group. Oh, my. There's a lot of noise. So we're going to go offline now. And, Brian, is that?
Yep. Yeah.
That must have been on your end, I guess. That was amazingly loud. Let's, Dr. Knight will return, ladies, on Saturday, and he will come back, he says, probably Wednesday, to help us with mini readings so we can enhance your lives at the same time. We want to get his PayPal up. So I've got to go do that psychic channel. But, Richard, if you could write his name down, and I don't know what you want to call your metaphysical group, because is that the one that you have a non-disclosure, or can we make a new one in Canada with Richard in North America? Can we combine the two countries possibly? Or Richard has several mysterious groups, or lots of groups and Facebook groups, Brian. So between the two of you, maybe you can find a common thread of groups or something.
I love the alien. I've learned alienology from you. I've never heard that before, Teresa. Alienology. Thank you.
Oh, yes. We're building alienology. The first one was Daryl Sims with his, and then not Brian, that's you, Colburn. What was his first name? Richard Colburn. He's from on the West Coast. But they do events, and both of them worked with the doctor that had implants. So we'll get into all, if you've ever studied implants. But alienology, there's two ways. One I spelled in the beginning with a T, and it caught on, especially in the gaming industry, ALIENTOLOGY, because some liked alientology. But the more pronounced is alienology, ALIENOLOGY, meaning the study of aliens. So not the ones alien from Mexico crossing the border into illegally. We're talking those aliens that may be foreign to this planet. However, we have aliens now, and we're decoding and decrypting a lot of their metaphysical and spiritual languages in the interdimensional realms, not to mention a lot of channels that used to be forbode, just like it used to be forbode to, not debunk, what do they call those when they cast out in the Catholic world? The girls
excommunicated.
Excommunicated.
Yes.
One thing's excommunicated, you can do that. But what's the other thing where they cast out demons? The Catholic Church.
Exorcise, right?
That's exorcism, yes. That's a whole different dimension.
Yeah, but you were saying a lot of people feel like aliens are evil or bad in a dualistic society. So, ladies, don't get fear. Don't go into fear, greed. What's the other? Hate, fear, greed. Or don't go into your fear. What is it?
Jealousy.
Fight, flight, or freeze. The 3 Fs. Fight, flight, or freeze.
Exactly.
But we're going to theologically, we're going to put on our armchair philosophy hats, and we're going to get together with various people that have their groups. So be looking at how many people are in your social media groups, how many are interested in alienology versus ufology, because a lot of the ufology is the study of unidentified flying objects. Now, Brian, you may not know this, but I have a new group called UAP Associates for unidentified anomalous phenomena. But the only person I've had brought in, unidentified anomalous phenomena associates. But right now I'm only working with New Mexico, it's not Dr. He was a school teacher in Spanish, and he came over from Japan, Norio Hawakawa. He may be a doctor. Is Norio, are you familiar with him in the UFO industry?
Not me, no.
No, okay. Well, I know so many people, folks. We're going to try to get them to put on their various hats, and they may have to swap them around. But Dr. Knight Brian will help us with the UFO Association.organization, but also with the Alien Contact Organization and the Ascension Center Organization and the Ace Metaphysical Institute. I've only got 4 fingers up. So there's one left.
And the Psychic University. The Psychic University, hello.
Okay, so that's number 5. Lord mercy. So it's going to take some. If you're interested in any of those, Brian, just let us know. And Brian,
sure.
You think you may be able to come back maybe February or March?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, just let us know.
Just private. Yeah, just private us your agenda, your calendar per se, and we'll be sure and have you on and give you a whole lot more time to speak, because it was certainly unintentional that we kind of cornered you tonight,
Well, no, I was half an hour late. It was my fault. I lost track of my time. Yeah, sorry about that. You guys managed to carry on without me. It must have been hard to carry on.
Time is irrelevant. Time is irrelevant, don't you know?
Yeah. Except whenever a radio show.
It's a figment of your imagination.
Yeah.
Brian, is it possible that you could bring Richard on your show to let him represent what we did tonight on your show in the future?
Probably, yeah. Sure. I don't have a regular schedule. Like usually my videos aren't at any particular time, so we could probably set something up.
Oh, all yours are
good.
videos.
Yeah, usually I just have a talk show. I make videos, then I just load them, and then after the fact, I play them on Revolution Radio. So it doesn't have to be live, because sometimes there's technical problems having someone live. Also, when I record it, when you record on Revolution Radio, it doesn't look good because it's on, like, one of the sides of the Skype is Revolution Radio rather than the guest. So I tend to pre-record, and then I just play it back on Revolution Radio. So almost everything I do is not live.
How do you accomplish this long distance as we are now?
Oh, like with Revolution Radio, you just do share screen on Skype, and then you play the video on Revolution Radio, because Revolution Radio is all done on Skype.
Okay.
Yeah. But some guests the viewers, or some of them are disappointed that it's not actually live. I mean, I do talk to them live, but I don't have the phone-in option. I'd like to do that.
Well, you're doing now. Do you have StreamYard on BitChute, or do you just do all your video recording on Skype?
I mainly use Zoom now. I've got a Zoom account for $22 a month.
There you go. We can meet on Zoom.
Yeah,
Zoom as well, and I do too. We all have Zoom. Yep. Okay, so everybody on Zoom.
So there you go.
And then you post it on your YouTube?
Just have to set up a date and time and whatever.
Yeah, I post on both YouTube and BitChute. My BitChute channel is much bigger than my YouTube, because YouTube deleted my channel 12 times. It's like an annual thing. At the end of every June, they delete me.
Oh, my goodness.
Is it due to your YouTube?
Those naughty
is it due to UFOs? Are people
some of my videos are controversial, more controversial than UFOs, so they tend to delete me every year. But I just wait 2 days, then I come up with a brand new Brian Rue channel. So go to YouTube, it's just Brian Rue, R-U-H-E.
Okay. Well, Dr.
All right.
How would Dr. Richard is on? Dr. Richard, what is your Skype name for Brian? To get you involved in Canada.
Well,
is it RT Night, or do we even know?
No. I know what it is, but I'd rather not I'm rather not announce it to the world.
Oh, okay.
No, I'd rather not. I can disclose it privately to Brian through email. That's easier to do.
Okay.
I'm not going to give out.
Yeah, I don't like to say
it
privately either. If I do it publicly, women will camp out in my front lawn. It's very difficult in my relationship, so I try not to do it publicly.
Yeah, he's very handsome. He's a very handsome gentleman. Very handsome, as most of us women know.
Let's get down to the tackiness of time, all right? We've been
all right,
way
let's get along, ladies.
And Blog Talk, I'm surprised they haven't barged in and said, well, your show will conclude in da-da-da-da-da, and then they give you all this music riff-raff.
Oh, they already did all that. They did that, but I think they like us tonight because we haven't been on in a while, so they gave us extra time. They know we're representing
they should, otherwise I have to reach out and spank them.
Well, thank
But
you,
anyway.
Dr. Knight. Now, can we assure the world, the universe, that you will help us with many? We're casting a wide net tonight for calling all leaders that would like to be interviewed by Dr. Knight tonight.
Yes.
Fridays 8 to 10, or what is your preferred time?
Now, wait a minute now. Don't get me back-to-back days and nights where I'm doing radio constantly all week long. I have a life too, you know. Anyway.
I mean, Saturday.
So we've already
Saturday,
got Saturday booked 8 to 10, all right?
8 to 10,
Wednesday is going to
so you're going to keep
Wednesday is presently open for psychic mini readings. We haven't determined the hours yet. Preferably a little bit earlier than this.
Okay.
But then again,
it'd
you
be
see
7 to 9, 6 to 8. All right, ladies. Well, they'd like to know because they hung around. So, all right, ladies.
Well, sure.
And then we may be back on Thursday.
Let's say 5
with
to 7,
Suzanne.
5 to 7 or something like that, you know.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because it's my TV night. So it'll probably be 5 to 7 Central. That's 6 to 8 for them because I like to be off by 7, ladies. So we'll get back started now. It's a new year. Thank you for joining us, all my wonderful people out there. Be sure and go on blogtalkradio.com on the outside. Please like Brian Rue on Revolution Radio. Tell them the time and how they get there, revolution.radio.
Yeah, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
A or B? Which studio?
Oh, I'm on Studio B.
All right, and he pre-records, so if you get in touch with him on Zoom, but you'll just have to figure that out on Facebook. Now, do you have a Facebook, social media?
Yeah, Facebook, Brian Rue. Just look for Brian Rue, R-U-H-E. I'm on Facebook.
There you go. There you go, Richard.
I have a website, too.
The night is out.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Your website is what?
Well, yeah, just brianrue.ca, Canada's.ca.
Thank you, Brian. Well, you're a wonderful person.
Sure.
Thank you for helping us tonight get launched with Canada, North America, and all you other countries out there. Thank you so much. Believe it or not, we're going to learn to do this together, and we are going to help the higher councils all the way up to all the universes. But a lot of people are just worried about the intergalactic councils that they know about here inside the Milky Way galaxy. But we're going to work universally as well. Thank you, Brian. I'm going to let you go, and you ladies. And Dr. Knight, I'll let you close out. And Brian, just keep in touch on Skype, and we'll do some more of these shows, okay?
Yes, thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Brian.
Now, I turned him off, so he probably said nice to meet you, too. All right, so everybody's off but you, Dr. Knight. If you would like to share whoever you are, how to get in touch with you, your social media platform, but we will start marketing you in several of our various organizations. But you want to tell them your LinkedIn, at least, if they're business women, which I have a lot.
Again, it's Richard Knight. Just my regular name, Richard, and my last name, Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. And, of course, that's readily found in the indexes of LinkedIn. The same is also true on Facebook. And, again, it's Richard Knight. And I know there's several Richard Knights out there, so just look for the guy that's in the striped shirt that's wearing a hat that says Mount Pilatus on it, because that was at the time when I was visiting Switzerland. Anyway.
He is a business coach. He's a life coach with me. So we have agents, consultants, organizers. He's working himself into authors. He's got a lot of books in him. And he's doing various radio shows. But we're going to try to offer him his own platform here. Saturdays, 8 to 10, if that seems right. If not, we'll adjust it for him. So Saturdays with Dr. Knight. And from now on, we'll do Supernatural. He promoted that on I guess Metaphysical, and UFOs too. We'll just have to wait and see what all he brings to the table. Dr. Knight, you did a wonderful job, and I think this is going to be an excellent ship to sail. What do we call that? We're sailing your ship into the universe.
Okay.
What is that called? You have actually
We're launching our ship into the universe. Yes.
There you go.
We're making our presence felt and known. Making our presence felt and known, however far and wide it may be.
That's right. He's an ontologist, too. He's a man of word. He's a poet, and he's going to get his stuff on LinkedIn. On Kindle. Download Kindle, folks. So be sure to look for our books on Lulu.com and Kindle and anywhere else you get your books. So thank you, all you publishers, indies. We represent indies all over in audio, oral books, video books, and thank you, ladies. All right, I know you ladies want to see what's going on for the future, so come back Wednesdays and Thursdays, all you Psychic University Invisible College and want readings. So love and light.
Now wait a minute.
You,
let's delineate what we're doing here. All right, Wednesdays is psychics. Yes, delineate as in describe in detail as to what they're getting on what day. All right.
Okay.
So Wednesdays is going to be psychic readings. Thursday is going to be our lovely sister Suzanne, who is basically into very galactic nowness. Basically, would be a good way to give you a short perspective of it.
Suzanne
she's Friday.
Is California psychic. She's a power psychic. Right. Oh, but let's.
Well, wait a minute. Now I'm talking about Suzanne, the one that is into the
Friday.
Cosmic aspects of things. That's Friday. Okay.
Friday.
All right. So what is Thursday?
That's Suzanne.
What's a Thursday? See, now you're messing with me head. Now you shouldn't be doing all these Suzannes and all these Thomases and all these Roberts and all these Stevens and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because yes, it does become confusing unless you add last names to them.
Well, we'll call Suzanne's Ace Folk Life Thursday. That'll make it easier for you. We got Ace Metaphysical tonight, so we'll do Ace Folk Life on Thursdays, but we'll do readings. Her husband's an artist. You haven't met Rich Flynn. I'll give him a plug. Rich Flynn is an artist over in the Orange County, and he does for different cities. And she is a psychic, and she is also a Disney person. She had a contract with Disney, and then she brings on the Terra. All right,
and let's try and wrap this up, PJ. Let's try and wrap this up. We're saying goodnight.
Friday
okay, that's Thursday. All right.
And Friday is Susan.
Okay, so one Suzanne and one is Susan.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you
all right.
so much.
Well, we appreciate all our listening audience, wherever you may be in the world. We appreciate you, and we send forth love, light, and blessings to you all, that you have a prosperous new year. May it be filled with good health, wisdom, insight, and the expansion of your ever ongoing and growing awareness. And with that, I bid you adieu.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Rick. It's been a pleasure. I'm happier in my life. Thank you so much. Welcome 2021. All right, ladies.
Yes.
Let's say Saturday. We will see you Wednesday. Good night. Oh, wait, I'm coming tomorrow to do spiritual. Tomorrow, folks. See you tomorrow.
Wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything I want the world to be is not coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear, it's because you are here. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I live. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are not the same. There are leaves on the trees, and there's touch of the breeze. There's a pleasing sense of happiness I found. the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love put me at the top of the world. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love put me at the top of the world.